All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Deeper Waters podcast. We're really excited that you're tuning in this week to join us. So I'm joined by Brandon today.
What's up, guys?
And we have Caleb.
Hola.
We decided that after his short appearance in the last episode,
It's worth a revisit.
Yeah. Welcome back.
It's good to be back.
So glad you're here. So, it's a couple things, just reminders before we dive in today. Podcast comes out every other Wednesday or first and third Wednesday. We might be on a little bit of a break for Christmas.
Yeah.
We might have a week off here. So just make sure you're subscribed so that the next one, when we come back in the new year, it just drops right into your podcast feed. You don't have to worry about missing out on anything for that. Also, if you're listening to this in the first couple of days of the episode coming out, Christmas party, December 22nd. Join us at 5 here at the church. We're going to have a whole lot of fun and then flow right into a normal night of impact after that. So we hope that you're able to join us for that. Brandon, what is our random thought of the week?
So I was thinking this is the last podcast of 2024.
Correct.
Let that set in for those of you who consistently and faithfully listen. But I did have a question that I wanted to. It's a little more of a quiz. Are you ready? Pop quiz time.
I didn't sign up for a quiz this early.
That's why it's a pop
morning.
quiz.
Yeah,
Yep.
Didn't sign up for this.
You don't sign up for them.
I'm gonna leave.
What do you think?
What if I just walked out?
If you just watch out. What do y'all think is the most popular Christmas gift being bought for 2024?
For what age group?
In general, just general. This is hard.
Yeah, this is
throw it
a
out there.
terrible pop quiz.
So, I was talking to Aiden Johnson Sunday. He works at Shields, and he used to work in the sock department. And he said that on Black Friday, they sold out of all Nike socks. All of them.
That's wild.
Weird.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say socks
That's
are the most popular Christmas gift.
That's probably the more true answer than what I found on the internet.
Yeah, probably
but that's
of
not
all
what the
time.
internet told me.
I was gonna say the internet. What kind of sort of source from the internet?
Okay, I'll give you a hint. The website I found is goodhousekeeping.com.
Right up there with Southern Living, everyone.
This is now
Almost as good as Southern Living. Almost.
According to goodhousekeeping.com. Do you have a guess, Andrea?
No, I was gonna say some sort of electronic of some sort because naturally, but I don't know.
That's what Google AI said, but it didn't say anything specific, so I went to a different website.
Okay, so based on Google AI, I am correct.
Yeah, that was fair.
Great.
Based on reality, I'm correct.
Based on
Based on
goodhousekeeping.com. It's the Lululemon Everywhere belt bag
Wow.
is the number one gift of 2024.
There's a Lululemon in town, isn't there?
I feel I think there
In the mall? Isn't
there
there
used
one?
to be for sure. I don't know if it's still there. Yeah, I think it is still there.
It's still there, I'm pretty sure.
I kind of find that hard to believe. If you would have said that last year,
For sure.
I think I would have
because they're
believed.
everywhere.
So I call good housekeeping
Liars.
false news, fake news.
It's either that or they're selling them. They're getting a cut.
Maybe.
It's like a free ad.
Yeah, probably. But also still fake news. I'm calling it. So, anyways,
Socks.
that is random.
It's socks.
That was random. Yep.
I actually love getting socks for Christmas.
Yeah,
and my
yeah.
mom, did that for a number of years in a row. And it was great because then I would just, take all the socks, old socks that I had, and, get rid of them. And I'd have new socks. And then one year she didn't do that. And all of us were like, Mom, where are our socks? So it's actually something that as an adult
I
can
love
be
getting
pretty
socks.
exciting. So
It's true.
I don't burn through shoes very fast, but I destroy socks for some reason. I don't know what it is.
you probably spend too much time sliding around on your kitchen floors or something,
Does that
skating
hurt
in your
the
socks. If you're skating in your socks, maybe it wears
You used to go
them out.
skateboarding in your socks?
Yeah, I like
It's
to
all
run
those
on
sock
concrete in
poppets
socks.
you do. all the sock puppeting that you do. That's what
Oh,
wears
yeah,
it
that's
out.
true. There is a YouTube channel of Caleb sock puppets out there if you ever want to find it.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Harry Potter pals.
Golden.
Dumbledore.
All right. On that note, Dumbledore, what is our song of the week?
The song of the week, I guess for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Song of 2024.
Did that just blow your minds?
Whoa. It's gonna be 2025. How weird is that?
That is weird. I was thinking about the song of the week. I'm looking at songs that we're like maybe gonna do at winter camp this year, or at least introduce in the new year. And I was looking at Bethel's stuff, and they had like releases. Like you can look at like the releases, and they show like the song title and then like the year right underneath on Apple Music. Like you see the year it was released, and there were songs from 2025. I'm like, it's not 2025, you guys. Like.
How do they do
Like,
that?
are those songs that are coming out, or
They're
already
like pre-released. Yeah, they're like singles of an album that's coming out.
I thought you were like breaking news that Bethel are time travelers.
Whoa, they figured it out.
That's the unspoken gift of the spirit right there, you guys.
Whoa.
It's time travel. Wow.
Sorry. That mic stand is real close to my elbow.
It's all good. It's all fun and games.
Like Bethel having a time machine.
Yeah.
All fun and games.
All fun and games until it's real. Then we'll know that would explain a lot. All right, so
it's the last podcast. You can tell we're derailed, unhinged.
It's gone. Song of the week. All right, That's Who I Praise from Brandon Lake. So I'm super pumped about this song. It was a hard one for me to pick the song of the week this week. When Brandon was like, "Hey, will you like give us the song of the week?" And I was like, "Sure." And I was like, "Shoot, like there's a lot of good ones that we're gonna do at winter camp that I want to talk about today." Like Goodbye Yesterday is in the running there. Like honorable mentions. Goodbye Yesterday. That's the
song.
Power of Your Name.
That's my favorite.
Like, they're great songs. But That's Who I Praise. One of the things that I love about that song is that Brandon Lake ties all of these heroes of the Bible into things that he is aspiring to be. So like when we sing that song, it's like, I want to dance like David, I want to faith like Paul. Like that, just those first two lines, like,
Sums
like,
it up.
I want to worship freely, and I want to do so with the faith and passion that Paul shows. Like, that's pretty incredible, just the first two lines of that song. But like, I'm gonna praise like that. Brandon Lake, you'd be hard pressed to find a song where he doesn't mention the word praise. So you can give him a little crap for that, but I do love the sentiment of that song. I love tying in the heroes of the Bible, and not just the New Testament but the Old as well. It just goes to show that as God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, the postures of worship also don't change. Like they are constant, and you see them all throughout Scripture. Like they're doing the same things. They're worshiping in the same way. It might look very different, but the posture is the same. The heart is the same. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I love about that song. And I'm excited to sing it at winter camp with you guys. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. And really excited is that on Sunday, we will be rolling out the theme of winter camp at our Christmas party, and we will also have our playlist for winter camp worship available on Sunday. So you'll be able to find that and start listening to this song and the other ones that we'll be doing at winter camp, which is really exciting.
Lots to look forward to.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. All right, so we are going to dive in. If you want just some extra entertainment, make sure you're watching the podcast because that's fun. But we're going to dive into our conversation, and today we're going to be talking about this idea of hospitality, or really creating a welcoming space. And so you'll hear us use kind of those terms interchangeably. And so to start us off, is there a time when you have been shown incredible hospitality? And what did that look like? Maybe how did that make you feel? What was that experience for you?
Yeah, it was first summer ever working at summer camp. I was in high school. I had been to this camp before as a camper for 1 week, but like it wasn't like a spectacular week by any means. It was kind of a whatever time. And so like me working at camp was something my dad really encouraged me, my brother to do and step in. So we were kind of stepping into this space of not really knowing anybody. We showed up late because we had like a soccer tournament. So people had already created friendships and connections by the time we got there. And while we were there, camp food, man, something that I ate. I remember like not feeling too well. I go and lay down and I like throw up all over this cabin. Super, super gross.
Hope you're not eating breakfast.
Super disgusting. But I remember all of like the college guys that were there for that summer just like help me out. And then one in particular be like, hey, I know it's hard. Like, I'm with you. I'm your friend. And like just like cares for me really well in that time, and like became a good friend of his like throughout the rest of the summer. And so like that was a moment of just like someone showing me hospitality of like, hey, I'm gonna take care of you, I'm gonna help you clean this up, even though this is absolutely disgusting and this was inside of you, and I'm gonna then be your friend.
Details that we didn't know.
But like then like and how like he made sure like I had a spot at his table whenever we had meals and things like that. So yeah,
it's awesome.
I got one. So when I moved back to Rochester, I was living in another town at the time, and when I decided to move back, it was all set for me and a couple of buddies to like room together at this apartment. But until we could move in, it was like 3 months until we could like actually move in.
Yeah.
Maybe more. I can't remember now. But it was a long time. I remember that much. And I remember talking to a buddy of mine, and he and his wife had a house, and they said, well, hey, why don't you just come live with us? And they let me move into this spare bedroom that they had set up in their home specifically for things like this.
Yeah.
Like they had a heart of hospitality. They welcomed me into their house. They said, you have refrigerator rights, like whatever you want is yours. Like we know things are tight, so like whatever you need, man, like you do you. Like you're by no means obligated to cook your own food. Like whatever we have, you can have. And it was just such a sweet time because we were such dear friends as it was.
Yeah.
But there was never any, like, to me as a guest, like I never felt like I was in danger of wearing out my welcome. Even though I probably was, but like, but they were just so sweet about that. No timeline, no asking me like, hey, when are you gonna move out? Like there was never, that question was never there. Like if you need more time, like please stay. We love having you here.
Yeah.
And they were genuinely sad to see me go, and that was one of those moments where I was like, man, this is real hospitality. Like I hope to have that that heart of hospitality someday.
Yeah.
You know, to welcome someone who needs a place to just lay low for a while and just hang out, no strings attached.
Yeah.
That was just such a sweet gift. At that time in my life, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, I experienced something similar with a number of different families in Rochester. Just after my family moved away, Rochester was like still home to me while I was in college and even after college. Like, but you know, Trisha and her family opened their home, and Joy and Wilbur G opened their home, and like I bounced around to like a couple of different spots, but again, everybody was that I stayed with, like again, was so welcoming and so just like, yeah, like no timeline, no like, which was super helpful, like in that I had just signed a lease in the Twin Cities, didn't know I was going to come down here, and the Lord brought me here, and to not be stuck with 2 leases that I had to pay, was an incredible blessing. And something else that like I remember, that's okay. Something else that I remember, like this wasn't necessarily like something that was done for me, but I remember growing up, my parents, again, there's like 5 of us kids, like Sundays, like we would go to church, like it was regular rhythm. And what kind of became part of that regular rhythm is like Sunday, like we'd have lunch together on Sundays after church. And I feel like there was rarely an occasion when it was just our family, but my parents often invited other people that were at the church who didn't have family in town or didn't have a place to go, and they would come over for Sunday lunch. And so like that gift of hospitality that my parents showed was something that like stood out to me as a student, as like a kid, of like, that's so cool that they see the people that don't have family in town and like invite them to be a part of our family.
I went to your family for Easter.
Yeah. Yes.
Me
like
and my
the
roommate
chaos. Like
so
just
great.
welcomed into the chaos. Like, but like again, like for me that was something that again, I wasn't necessarily like the one experiencing the hospitality necessarily, but like I watched my parents do that, and like I still think about that now, which is really cool. So when we say this word hospitality, like what does that actually like mean? What does it look like? What, when we say hospitality, are we even talking about?
You know, like when you're really sick and you have to go to the hospital. It's not that.
Boo.
It can't. Sorry. I think that is, we've said it a lot, like all 3 of us have said this word a lot, welcoming.
Yeah.
I think about like just having open arms towards people, whether they're strangers or people that you're familiar with or dear friends. I think that just being able to have that open arm mentality, like there's an open door, like giving refrigerator rights to people who wouldn't normally have refrigerator rights to your house, right? Like whatever's in there, go ahead and take it. I don't care. Yeah. Like that's replaceable. You are not. And I think that just, you know, we've all talked about those examples of like hospitality. And I think the thing that keeps coming to my mind is, again, just that welcoming demeanor, being willing to be vulnerable. Like, the thing about going to someone's house is you choose when you can leave. The thing about inviting people into your house is you have now set up a time where, yes, it's your house, but you have no control over when they leave. Like, that's their say. They have to determine when the welcome is no longer available. But I think that's the other thing, too, is, like, giving that environment to somebody where they don't feel like the welcome is never available. Like, so in our time in Ohio, we didn't have a lot of friends, like, or we didn't have any family. We had a lot of friends, but we had, like, no family. So what we would do is we would invite friends over to our home from time to time, and we tried to pay them the same courtesy that they paid us, and that was no end time for this event. Like, bring your kids. If they need to go to sleep, we have a kid's bed upstairs. Like, we have places that they can go sleep. Like, stay past bedtime. We don't care. And I think that was just our way of repaying them for their sincere hospitality towards us. Yeah. It was our job to pay that in kind. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit on that, just being like welcoming, like being open to inviting people into your life and caring for somebody in a way that creates belonging, that like helps people be seen and to be known. And it, like, really, I think part of it too is like creating friendship, right? Like creating friendship with other people. So that's what it looks like. I think would say be hospitable to other people.
Yeah. And I think as like we hear these answers and talk through this, like why we're talking about this on this podcast is like it's important for us as believers to be hospitable towards others. And I think as you hear us talking about what being hospitable is, the answer as to why we should do that as believers is really evident, because as we're talking about these things, it's exactly how Jesus was. He was welcoming to other people. Like he was vulnerable. He created friendships. Like he shared the space with people, and there wasn't a timeline to it of like, oh, you can only be with me for this amount of time. But like, again, like he welcomes us in. And I think too, part of welcoming and being hospitable is this idea of like, come as you are. Like there's not an expectation of like being like all cleaned up or all put together. Like if I invite people over to my house, like I want people to come as they are, and like not with an expectation of this is how you should look to like come over. But any other thoughts on like why we as believers should be hospitable towards others?
I think you got it. Like, it's the heart of who Jesus is, like, and how he responded to other people throughout the Gospels and how he treated other people. And, like, in light of we're in the series on community, the table, and we've talked about, like, loving our families and loving the church as family. And now we're going to wrap it up this week talking about, like, how we're all invited into this community no matter where you're at. And a piece of that to love our family well and to love our church family well is like we got to be hospitable. If we're worried about what's for me and what's the best thing for me, then we're not going to be in spaces to be hospitable, and we're going to miss out on showing other people who Jesus is through that. And I think that's just like being a hospitable person is a great way to show the character and light of who Jesus is.
Yeah. So how do we become more hospitable? Like, what is some maybe practical steps, some little things, some things to think about or consider when we want to be more hospitable? What does that look like?
I think the first step for me was like putting my guard down. So, like when you get older and you have a house and you welcome people into your home, right? Like for a long time, there was this thing that, and honestly, I still do it, but like I have this deep fear of judgment from others if they walk into my home and see how messy it is on the day-to-day. Look, like I have a 5-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Her toys are everywhere. Everywhere. My table, I can't sit at my table right now to eat a meal. It's covered in things, like full transparency.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to sit at my table. Like, to have someone over and invite them over into your home when your house looks like that, that can feel embarrassing. But boy, oh boy, did I learn a valuable lesson from the Moes when they were still here. Is they got to that point where they realized it was just not a real representation of what their house was.
Yeah.
They were putting on a mask for their closest friends. And man, I'll tell you, I remember the days when I would show up and it would be just like chaos in their house.
I still find Nerf bullets and Legos at their house.
No way.
I'm like, oh, this is fun.
But gosh, I mean, like they stopped focusing so much on like doing things to look presentable to their friends and their family, and they started just focusing on being welcoming in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, if your house is dirty, you have the tendency to say no more often than yes.
Yeah.
And that was what they discovered, and that's what I've discovered.
Yeah.
Like, I had the tendency to say, nah, man, like, can we find another time? Versus, like, come on over.
Yeah.
Whenever, open door.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, how do we become more hospitable? It's allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to be presented as something that's not this clean, shiny, pristine thing. Like you said, like, I don't care what you wear when you come over to my house. There's no expectations. Like, same goes for the person welcoming you into the home. Like, if you're that person who's welcoming someone into your place, into your space, like, my car is a wreck, but you're more than welcome to ride with me. Just understand, I have a kid, and I don't have time to clean my car like I did without a kid.
Yeah.
Like, things change. Life changes. You know, maybe for you that's not that thing, but, like, just allowing yourself to not be embarrassed by, you know, how people might perceive you from the outside, and just understanding that who you are really is someone who's willing to welcome anyone into that fold. Like, those are the people I want to be in community with. We had a small group leader who their table was always sticky. and
Nice.
they had little
that.
kids. They had little kids, and we would go over for small group. And I remember sitting at their table, and they invited us to dinner, and they had rice with the meal, and they told us to leave, like, don't worry about wiping up the rice that we spilled. You know, rice gets everywhere.
Yeah.
They said, oh, it's easier to clean up when it dries. It's like, just letting it sit there till it dries. Like, by the way, 100% correct.
True. It is true.
But
I wonder how they figure that out.
I mean, when you have
just
little
leave
kids
it.
and you eat a lot of rice, that's how you figure that out. Like, but I remember thinking in that moment, like, well, they don't care. It's not about that. It's just about spending time with us.
Yeah.
That's all they wanted.
Yeah.
And treating someone as if they're closer than they actually are to you, I think, is another way we can be hospitable.
Yeah.
Is to say to that person that you don't really know, like, come over, spend time with me. I want to get to know you. When we moved to Ohio, there was a lot of that for me. I had coffee with a lot of people that I didn't really know very well. Like, I have a good buddy from there. He's the sweetest guy. But the first time I grabbed lunch with him, he was coughing like crazy. And this is, like, at the height of COVID. Like,
Nice.
we're sitting in Chipotle, and he's just coughing like crazy. I remember he coughed in his hand, and he went to give me a high five. And I was like, ugh.
You did it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Oh,
and like, I wasn't scared of COVID. I just didn't want to get sick. Like,
Yeah.
and
Makes
I love that dude to death. And he was more than willing to just spend time and hang out. And it was my job to do that with him. And I remember catching myself in that moment, like, I'm not being the person I need to be to this guy.
Yeah.
I'm letting myself get in the way of that. Like, don't let yourself get in the way of being warm and welcoming and loving towards someone that you don't really know that well.
Yeah. I think a lot of what you said really boils down to it's not about being presentable, it's about being present.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to worry about how we show up. We don't have to worry about how others show up. Just show up as you are. Be present in that time. And, like, you can tell when somebody is really present in whatever you're doing. And so I think that's a great first step. And we talked about vulnerability on the last podcast. So if you didn't listen to that, like, being vulnerable is a big piece of that. And so we hope this kind of gets you started into what it looks like for you to be more hospitable, more welcoming. We're hoping we're creating that with an impact, but then that you're also taking this and creating it in the other spaces that you're a part of. So we just thank you again for listening to this. If you have more you want to talk about with this conversation, we're always available to you guys for those conversations. We love you. We care about you. And with all that being said, we say to you, go and be more like Jesus.
Brought to you by Costco.
Folgers.
Nope.
Best part of waking up.
Oh,
Folgers in your cup.
I'm glad we were on the same wavelength with that one. Okay, are we ready for this?
You know, the Folgers song goes perfectly into, oh,
Nope.
O'Reilly. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Ow!